The snow came down hard over Ridgemont that night. Thick flakes swirled through the freezing air and buried everything in white silence. The temperature had dropped below 20 degrees. Behind a strip mall on the edge of town, the alley sat dark and empty. A single streetlight flickered at the far end, casting long shadows across the dumpsters and stacked pallets. Near the largest dumpster, two small figures lay huddled together on flattened cardboard. Twin girls, no older than 7. They wore matching pink jackets, the kind meant for autumn, not a Colorado blizzard. Their bodies trembled against each other. Their eyes were closed, but their breathing came fast and shallow. They were not resting. They were fading. One girl's lips had turned pale. The other had tucked her bare hands under her arms, trying to hold on to whatever warmth she had left. Neither of them moved. Neither of them called for help. The silence around them was absolute. The rumble of a motorcycle broke through the stillness. A single headlight swept down the empty street, cutting through the falling snow. The rider slowed as the beam crossed the mouth of the alley. Something caught his eye. 2 small shapes. A flash of pink. No movement. He brought the bike to a stop. The engine idled low and steady. Steam rose from the exhaust into the frozen air. For a moment, the rider just sat there, staring into the alley. His name was Marcus. He was a big man. Broad shoulders, thick arms. A black leather vest covered in patches sat over his jacket. His beard was streaked with gray, and deep lines creased the skin around his eyes. He had been riding for almost 30 years. He had seen plenty on nights like this. Drunks stumbling into traffic, bar fights spilling into parking lots, wrecks on icy roads, but this was different. He pulled off his helmet and set it on the gas tank. His breath came out in a thin white cloud. He did not move from the bike. Not yet. His eyes swept the alley slowly, left to right, shadows behind the pallets, darkness near the loading dock, the faint glow of a van parked at the far end, 2 children, alone, in the middle of a blizzard, behind trash. His gut told him to move. His experience told him to wait. He had learned a long time ago that situations like this did not always look the way they seemed. He needed to be sure. One of the girls stirred. Her small hand reached out and grabbed her sister's arm. Even half-conscious, even shaking from the cold, she was trying to protect her twin. She pulled her closer, her fingers gripped tight. Marcus watched that small gesture. Something shifted in his chest. He remembered another night, another winter, a child he had tried to reach but could not save. That memory never left him. It sat somewhere deep, waiting for moments like this. He swung his leg off the bike and stepped into the snow. His boots crunched against the icy ground as he moved toward the dumpster. The girls did not react. They did not open their eyes. Their bodies kept shaking in that shallow, rapid rhythm that told him they were running out of time. He crouched a few feet away. Up close, he could see how young they really were. Baby teeth, soft round faces, tear streaks frozen on their cheeks. Their jackets were zipped all the way up, but the fabric was damp and thin. No hats, no gloves, no scarves. Whoever had left them here had not planned for them to survive the night. Marcus clenched his jaw. His hands balled into fists at his sides. Then he saw them, footprints, fresh adult footprints pressed into the snow, leading away from the girls. The prints were deep and evenly spaced. Whoever made them had walked calmly. No rush, no panic. They had walked away from 2 freezing children like it was nothing. Marcus followed the trail with his eyes. It curved toward the far end of the alley, where the van sat parked in the shadows. He had not noticed it before. The van was dark, no lights, no engine running. But now he saw something else. A shape behind the windshield. A silhouette. Someone sitting in the driver's seat. Watching. The figure did not move. It just sat there in the dark, staring toward the dumpster, toward the girls, toward Marcus. The snow kept falling. The girls kept shaking. And the man in the van kept watching. Marcus did not look away. He stayed crouched beside the children. But his eyes stayed locked on that windshield. His mind ran through every possibility, every danger, every reason someone would leave 2 little girls in a freezing alley and then sit back to watch what happened next. None of the answers were good. Marcus did not take his eyes off the van. The silhouette behind the windshield sat perfectly still. No movement, no shift, just a shape in the darkness, watching. He felt the weight of that attention press against his chest. Whoever was inside that vehicle had been there before Marcus arrived. They had watched him pull up. They had watched him remove his helmet. They had watched him walk toward the girls, and they had not moved. That told him everything he needed to know. He made his decision in 3 seconds. He would not show hesitation. He would not show fear. He turned his back to the van and walked toward the children, as if the alley belonged to him. His boots crunched through the fresh snow. His breath came out in steady clouds. He kept his shoulders square and his pace even. The girls lay curled together on the cardboard. Up close, the damage was worse than he had thought. Their lips had turned a pale shade of blue. Their skin looked waxy in the dim light. The smaller one had stopped shivering. That was a bad sign. The body stopped shivering when it started to shut down. Marcus knelt beside them. He pulled off one glove and pressed 2 fingers gently to the neck of the girl closest to him. Her pulse was there, but faint and slow. Hypothermia was setting in. They had maybe 30 minutes before this became something he could not fix. The other girl opened her eyes. They were glassy and unfocused. She looked at Marcus but did not seem to really see him. Her mouth moved. A whisper came out, barely louder than the falling snow. "He said he was coming back. With blankets." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Someone had left them here. Someone had made a promise. Someone had walked away and let 2 little girls freeze behind a dumpster while they sat in a warm van and watched. He looked over his shoulder. The van's headlights flicked on. Bright beams cut through the snowfall and lit up the alley. The engine revved slightly, once, twice. It was not loud. It was not aggressive. It was a message, a warning, or maybe a preparation to move. Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. He pressed the power button and watched the screen glow to life. No signal, not a single bar. The mountains blocked everything this far from the town center. He was alone out here, alone with 2 dying children and whoever sat inside that van. He looked at the girls. He looked at the van. He could not carry both children and fight at the same time. He could not leave them behind and chase the vehicle. Every option had a cost. Every second mattered. The van door opened. A man stepped out into the snow. He was tall and thin. He wore a clean dark coat that looked brand new. No snow on his shoulders, no dirt on his sleeves. He carried a clipboard in one hand. He closed the van door behind him with a soft click and started walking toward Marcus. His face was calm. His posture was relaxed. When he got closer, he smiled. It was the kind of smile that did not reach the eyes. "Sir," the man said, "I appreciate your concern, but I'm with Child Protective Services. These girls are under my care." He gestured toward the dumpster with the clipboard. "I was just getting supplies from my vehicle. Blankets, water, standard protocol for field recovery." Marcus did not stand. He stayed kneeling beside the girls. His hands rested on his thighs. His voice came out low and even. "CPS leaves kids behind dumpsters and blizzards now?" The man's smile flickered, just for a second. Then it came back, wider than before. "It's an unusual situation. I understand how it must look, but I assure you, everything is under control." Marcus studied him. The coat was too clean. The clipboard was too convenient. And CPS workers did not sit in running vans in dark alleys while children froze 10 feet away. Nothing about this man matched what he claimed to be. Then Marcus noticed the shoes, expensive leather dress shoes, polished and dark, completely wrong for a blizzard, completely wrong for a rescue. The snow had already started soaking through them, but the man did not seem to care. He had not dressed for the weather. He had dressed for something else. The man took another step closer. He extended the clipboard, like a shield, like proof, like authority. Marcus's eyes dropped to the man's wrist. His coat sleeve had shifted. A tattoo peeked out from beneath the fabric. Dark ink against pale skin. A symbol Marcus had seen before. Not on the street, not in a shop. In old case files. Files that members of his club had passed around for years. Files about missing children across 3 states. The man kept smiling. The snow kept falling. And Marcus understood exactly what he was looking at. Sarah Harper pressed a paper star against the top branch of the tiny Christmas tree. The glue was still wet. The star tilted to one side. Lily reached up and straightened it with her small fingers. Rose clapped her hands and smiled. The apartment was small. 1 bedroom, a kitchen with a stove that only worked on 2 burners, a bathroom where the faucet dripped all night. but it was warm. It was theirs. And for 3 years, Sarah had made it feel like home. She worked nights as a cleaner at the hotel on 5th Street. She worked mornings as a cashier at the gas station near the highway. Most days she slept 4 hours. Most nights she came home with her back aching and her hands raw from chemicals. But when she walked through that door and saw her daughters, none of it mattered. Lily and Rose were 7 years old, twins, born 3 minutes apart. They looked almost identical, but Sarah could always tell them apart. Lily was the quiet one. She watched everything. She noticed things other people missed. Rose was the brave one. She talked to strangers. She laughed loud. She believed the world was good. That night, they sat on the floor together and cut snowflakes out of old newspaper. The radiator hissed in the corner. The lights on the tree blinked red and green. For 1 hour, everything felt okay. Then the knock came. Sarah opened the door. The landlord stood in the hallway. He was a short man with a thick mustache and a folder in his hand. He did not say hello. He held out a piece of paper. "Building's been sold. New owners want everyone out in 7 days." Sarah stared at the paper. The words blurred together. Eviction. Vacate. December 23rd. She looked up at him. "I've never missed a payment. Not once. You can check." He shrugged. "Not my problem anymore. Talk to the new people if you want, but they're not answering calls." He turned and walked down the hall. The door clicked shut behind him. Sarah stood there holding the paper. Behind her, the twins watched from the floor. They did not ask questions. They just watched. The next 6 days moved fast. Sarah called her mother. No answer. She called her brother in Kansas. He said he was sorry, but he had no room. She called her cousin in Denver. The number was disconnected. She went to the housing office downtown. The woman behind the desk looked tired. She typed something into her computer and sighed. "Emergency housing waitlist is about 4 months right now, maybe 5. December is always the worst." Sarah felt her chest tighten. "I have 2 little girls. They're 7. We have nowhere to go." The woman handed her a list of shelters. "Try these. Some of them might have space." She tried them, one by one. The first shelter was full. The second only took single adults. The third had a 2-week waiting list. The fourth said they could take the girls but not the mother. On the 6th day, she found something. A temporary shelter, run by a church on the east side of town. It was not much, a large room filled with cots. Noise all night, cold air leaking through the windows. But they had space. They would take all 3 of them. Sarah packed what she could carry. 2 bags, some clothes, the paper star from the top of the tree. She held her daughter's hands and walked out of the apartment for the last time. She did not look back. The shelter smelled like bleach and old blankets. The cots were narrow and hard, but the girls did not complain. They curled up on either side of their mother and held her hands. Rose whispered, "It's going to be okay, Mommy." Lily nodded. "We're together." Sarah closed her eyes and tried to believe them. On the second night, a man approached her. He wore a clean coat, dark fabric, no wrinkles. He smiled warmly and introduced himself as Derek. He said he worked with a county program that helped families find housing faster. He said he had seen her file. He wanted to help. Sarah felt something loosen in her chest. Hope. Real hope. She thanked him. She agreed to meet with him the next morning to discuss options. He shook her hand and walked away. She did not notice how his eyes kept drifting toward her daughters. She did not notice the way he smiled at them when he thought she was not looking. She did not notice because she was exhausted, because she was desperate, because she wanted so badly to believe that something good was finally happening. That night, Sarah fell asleep on the cot between her girls. Her body gave out. Her mind went quiet. She did not hear the footsteps. She did not hear the whisper. Derek knelt beside the cot where Lily and Rose were sleeping. He leaned close. He said something soft. The girls sat up. Their eyes were heavy. Their minds were foggy. They did not scream. They did not call for their mother. He took their hands, and he walked them out the back door of the shelter, into the snow, into the dark. Sarah's hand hit the empty cot. Her eyes flew open. The space beside her was cold. Both sides were cold. Lily and Rose were gone. She sat up fast. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She looked left. She looked right. The shelter was full of people stirring awake on their own cots, coughing, shifting, folding blankets. But no pink jackets, no small faces, no twins. She threw off her blanket and stood. Her legs trembled. She moved through the rows of cots, checking every face, every shape, every child. None of them were hers. She pushed through the door to the bathroom, empty. She ran to the small kitchen where volunteers were setting out bread and coffee. Not there. She went outside into the cold morning air. The sidewalk was empty. The street was quiet. Snow had started falling again. Light flakes drifted down and melted on her bare arms. Her daughters were gone. Sarah ran back inside. She found the shelter manager behind a folding table near the entrance. The woman was sorting papers. Sarah grabbed her arm. "My girls, my twins, they're gone. Someone took them." The manager looked up. Her face showed confusion, then concern. She stood and walked to a small room in the back, where a computer monitor sat on a metal desk. She tapped the keyboard. The screen flickered, then went black. "The cameras haven't been working for 2 weeks," the manager said quietly. "We don't have the budget to fix them." Sarah felt the floor tilt beneath her. No footage, no proof, no way to see who had taken her daughters or when. The manager checked the sign-out sheets. Nothing unusual, no names, no notes, no record of anyone leaving with 2 children. She called the police. An officer arrived an hour later. He was young. He had a notebook and a pen. He asked Sarah questions in a calm voice. How old were the girls? What were they wearing? When did she last see them? Had they ever wandered off before? Sarah answered everything. Her voice cracked. Her hands shook. She told him they were 7. She told him they wore matching pink jackets. She told him they would never leave her side. She told him something was wrong. The officer wrote it all down. Then he closed his notebook. Children wander off sometimes, especially in shelters. Lots of new people, lots of confusion. They usually turn up. Sarah stared at him. They are 7 years old. There is a blizzard coming. They do not know anyone in this town. He nodded slowly. I understand. I'll file a report. We'll put out a notice. Someone will follow up. He left. Sarah did not wait. She ran out into the street. She asked everyone she passed. A woman at a bus stop, a man sweeping the sidewalk outside a bakery, a group of teenagers huddled near a corner store. She asked if they had seen 2 little girls in pink jackets, twins, 7 years old, holding hands. No one had. She walked for hours. Her shoes soaked through. Her coat was not warm enough. Her voice grew hoarse from shouting their names. Lily, Rose, Lily, Rose. The snow fell harder. The streets emptied. The sky turned gray. Somewhere across town, Derek drove the van through quiet roads. The twins sat in the back seat. They wore their thin pink jackets and held paper cups of hot chocolate. He had bought them at a drive-thru. He told them their mother had asked him to take them somewhere warm. He said she would meet them there. He smiled when he said it. Rose drank her hot chocolate slowly. She watched the buildings pass outside the window. After a while, she asked, When will we see Mommy? Derek glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Soon. She waited. A few minutes later, she asked, again, Is it much farther? He did not answer. Lily sat beside her sister in silence. She did not drink her hot chocolate. She watched the man's hands on the steering wheel. She saw the way his knuckles went white when Rose asked questions. She saw the way his jaw tightened. She reached under the blanket and found her sister's hand. She squeezed once. Rose squeezed back. It was a signal they had used since they were babies. A silent message. Something is wrong. The van stopped behind a strip mall. Derek turned off the engine. He looked back at the girls and smiled again. I need to get your room ready. You two wait here. I'll be right back. He handed them a thin blanket. Stay warm. He stepped out of the van and walked toward a side door of an old building. His footsteps crunched through the snow. He did not look back. Rose leaned close to her sister. Her breath came out in small white clouds. We need to stay awake. If we fall asleep, we might not wake up. Lily nodded. She held Rose's hand tighter, but the cold was stronger than their will. The air bit through their jackets. Their fingers went numb. Their eyelids grew heavy. Within 30 minutes, their eyes closed. Their bodies curled together on the frozen ground. And that is how Marcus found them. Marcus knew that tattoo. He had seen it in photographs passed between members of his club. He had seen it in case files that law enforcement shared with them during joint operations. He had seen it circled in red ink on flyers at truck stops and rest areas across 3 states. It was not a county symbol. It was not a government badge. It was a mark worn by men who traded in the worst kind of cargo. He looked at Derek's polished shoes. He looked at the clean coat. He looked at the clipboard held like a prop. Everything about this man was a costume. Everything about him was a lie. 12 years ago, Marcus would not have recognized any of it. 12 years ago, he was someone else entirely. He had been a construction foreman. He wore a hard hat instead of a helmet. He drove a truck instead of a motorcycle. He came home every night to a small house with a garden out front and a swing set in the back. His wife made dinner. His daughter ran to the door when she heard his truck pull in. Emily, she was 8 years old. She had his eyes, dark brown with flecks of gold around the edges. She had her mother's laugh, high and bright, the kind of sound that filled a room. That winter, Marcus worked late on a commercial project. Overtime, double pay. He told his wife he would be home by 10. She said she would pick up Emily from dance class, and they would wait for him. She kissed him that morning, like every other morning. He did not know it would be the last time. The drunk driver ran the red light at 40 miles an hour. He never touched his brakes. The impact crushed the passenger side of the car, where Emily sat in her booster seat. His wife died on impact. Emily held on for 3 minutes. The paramedics said she asked for her daddy. Marcus arrived at the hospital to identify bodies, not to hold hands, not to say goodbye, just to look and nod and sign papers. The grief hit like a slow poison. It did not kill him all at once. It hollowed him out piece by piece. He stopped going to work. He stopped answering the phone. He stopped eating unless someone put food in front of him. The house felt like a tomb. Every room held their voices. Every corner held their shadows. He sold the house. He lost the job. He drained his savings on whiskey and motel rooms. For 2 years he drifted through towns, without names, roads without destinations. Some nights he parked near bridges and stared at the water below. Some nights he held a bottle in one hand and thought about how easy it would be to just stop. Then he met Ray. Ray was 70 years old, gray beard, crooked back. A voice like gravel scraped across concrete. He found Marcus sleeping under an overpass outside of Reno. He did not ask questions. He handed Marcus a sandwich and a bottle of water and sat beside him until the sun came up. Ray told him about the Desert Thunder MC. He had founded the club 30 years earlier, after losing his own son to a hit and run. The driver was never caught. The case went cold. Ray spent 5 years drowning in anger before he realized the only way forward was to turn that rage into something useful. The club had one rule: protect those who cannot protect themselves, especially children. Marcus did not believe him at first. He had seen biker clubs on the news. He thought he knew what they were about, but Ray invited him to a charity ride for foster kids. Marcus watched rough men in leather vests hand out stuffed animals and birthday presents to children who had never had either. He watched them stand guard at courthouse doors while abuse survivors testified inside. He watched them show up at schools to teach kids about safety and strangers. Something cracked open inside him that day. He got sober. He earned his patches. He rebuilt himself one ride at a time. The club gave him a name: Iron. They said nothing could break him anymore. He did not tell them how wrong they were. He did not tell them that every December, the grief came back like a flood he could not stop. On those nights, he rode alone. He took back roads through empty towns. He searched for something he could never name: his daughter's ghost, a chance to undo what could not be undone. A life he could save the way he had not saved hers. Tonight, behind a dumpster in a blizzard, he had found it. 2 small girls in pink jackets, freezing, alone, left to die by a man with a fake smile and a predator's mark on his wrist. Marcus looked at Derek. The man's smile flickered. It did not disappear, but something behind it shifted. He had expected confusion. He had expected hesitation. He had expected a civilian who would back down at the flash of a clipboard. What he saw instead made him pause. Recognition. Marcus had seen predators before. He had faced them in alleys and parking lots and courthouse steps. He knew their patterns. He knew their lies. And predators, when recognized, only did one of two things. They ran, or they attacked. Derek did not move. He stood 5 feet away, with the clipboard pressed against his chest. His smile stayed fixed in place. His voice stayed calm and even. "Sir, I understand your concern, but these children are under my care. Child Protective Services emergency placement. Everything is under control." Marcus stayed crouched beside the twins. He did not stand. He did not raise his voice. He kept his eyes locked on the man in the clean coat. "What's the case number?" Derek blinked. Just once. "I'm sorry?" "The case number. Every CPS file has one." "What is it?" A pause. Half a second too long. "I don't have that information on me. It's back at the office." Marcus nodded slowly. "Which office? Denver, Boulder, Ridgemont? Doesn't have a CPS branch?" Derek's jaw tightened. "We work out of a regional center. I'm not at liberty to discuss specifics." "What's the mother's name?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Privacy laws prevent me from sharing that information." "You understand." Marcus understood perfectly. A real caseworker would have answered without hesitation. A real caseworker would not have left 2 children freezing in an alley. A real caseworker would have shown identification the moment he stepped out of that van. This man had shown nothing. Derek shifted his weight. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a phone. "I'm going to call the police now. You're interfering with official county business. Step back and let me do my job." Marcus did not move. "Call them. I'll wait right here." Derek's thumb hovered over the screen. He did not dial. He did not press a single button. He just stood there, phone in hand, staring at the biker, with something new in his eyes. Calculation. Risk assessment. That hesitation told Marcus everything he needed to know. The twins lay on the frozen cardboard behind him. Their breathing was shallow. Their skin had turned a grayish blue. They did not have much time left. If Marcus moved to get help, Derek could grab them and disappear into the night. If Marcus stayed here, the girls might slip away anyway. He needed to buy time. He needed witnesses. He needed someone else to see what was happening in this alley. Marcus rose to his feet. He was a full head taller than Derek and twice as wide. He positioned himself directly between the man and the children. He did not threaten. He did not shout. He simply became a wall. Derek took a step to the left. Marcus stepped with him. Derek moved right. Marcus blocked him again. The space between them shrank to 3 feet, 2 feet, close enough to see the pulse jumping in Derek's throat. "I'm not going anywhere," Marcus said. His voice was low and steady. "And neither are they." Derek's smile finally cracked. The warmth drained from his face. His lips pressed into a thin line. He muttered something under his breath about bikers thinking they were heroes. His eyes flicked toward the van. He was calculating. 1 large man, 2 unconscious children, a dark alley with no cameras and no witnesses. Then the headlights appeared. A pickup truck turned into the alley from the street. Its high beam swept across the snow and caught all 3 of them in a wash of white light. The truck slowed. It stopped. A young man sat behind the wheel. A woman sat beside him in the passenger seat. They had come to dump trash behind the strip mall. They saw everything. A biker in a leather vest, a man in a dark coat, 2 small children lying motionless on the ground. The woman leaned forward. Her hand went to her mouth. Derek took a step back. His posture shifted. The aggression drained out of him. Too many eyes now, too many witnesses. The calculation had changed. The young man rolled down his window. Cold air rushed into the cab. He called out across the alley. "Hey, everything okay over here?" Marcus had 3 seconds to decide. If he told the truth, Derek might bolt for the van and disappear before anyone could stop him. If he stayed quiet, he might lose his only chance to get help for the twins. He opened his mouth to answer. But before he could speak, one of the girls moved. Lily's eyes fluttered open. They were glassy and unfocused, but they found Derek's face across the alley. She looked at him the way a rabbit looks at a wolf. Her small hand reached out and grabbed Marcus's boot. Her fingers gripped the leather with what little strength she had left. Her voice came out as a whisper, thin and cracked and raw, but in the silence of the alley, everyone heard it. "Please don't let him take us again." Derek's face went pale. The young couple in the truck stared. The woman already had her phone in her hand, and Marcus felt something shift inside his chest, a door opening, a promise forming, a line he would never let this man cross. The words echoed through the alley. "Please don't let him take us again." Every syllable hung in the frozen air like a verdict. The young couple in the pickup sat frozen behind the windshield. Tyler gripped the steering wheel. Jenna pressed her hand against the glass. They looked at each other. They looked at the two small children on the ground. They looked at the man in the clean coat who had claimed to be from Child Protective Services. Something shifted in that moment. The story Derek had told collapsed like a house of cards in the wind. No explanation could undo what the child had just said. No lie could cover those words. Tyler opened his door and stepped out into the snow. He was not a large man. Average height, slim build. He worked at a hardware store in town and had never been in a fight in his life. But he walked across that alley and stood beside Marcus without hesitation. Two strangers, side by side, united by nothing but instinct. Jenna stayed in the truck. Her hands moved fast. She pulled out her phone and held it up. The camera light blinked on. She was recording. Then she pressed 3 numbers and brought the phone to her ear. 911, what is your emergency? Her voice shook, but she spoke clearly. She told them where she was. She told them what she saw. She told them to send police and an ambulance immediately. Derek's face changed. The calm mask he had worn since stepping out of the van began to crack. His eyes darted from the phone to the 2 men blocking his path to the children on the ground. He tried one more time. The child is confused. She's in shock. She doesn't know what she's saying. He took a step toward the twins. His hand reached out as if to comfort them. Marcus moved. His hand landed on Derek's shoulder. Heavy, firm, unmoving. One word came out low and cold. Don't. Derek stopped. He did not try to push past. He did not raise his voice. He just stood there, frozen under the weight of that grip. Behind them, Rose sat up slowly. Her small body trembled. Her face was pale, but her eyes were clear now, awake, aware. She looked directly at Derek, and she pointed at him. He told us Mommy wanted us to go with him. Her voice was thin but steady. But Mommy never said that. She was sleeping. He woke us up. He took us from the bed. He made us walk outside in the snow. Lily stirred beside her sister. Her eyes fluttered open. She could not speak yet. Her body was too weak. But she reached out and grabbed Rose's hand. She held it tight. She nodded. Derek saw the phone still recording. He heard the sirens rising in the distance. Faint at first, then louder. Closer. He looked at the 2 men standing between him and the van. He looked at the children who had just destroyed his cover. He ran. He turned and sprinted toward the mouth of the alley. His polished shoes slipped on the packed snow. He stumbled but kept moving. He was heading for the street, for the darkness beyond the strip mall, for any escape he could find. Marcus did not chase him. He stayed with the children. He had made a promise when Lily grabbed his boot. He was not leaving them again. Tyler ran instead. He was faster than he looked. He reached the alley entrance and planted himself in Derek's path. His arms spread wide, his feet dug into the ice. Derek tried to shove past him. He threw his shoulder into Tyler's chest. Tyler staggered but held on. He grabbed Derek's coat. They scuffled. Feet slipped. Arms swung. Then Derek's shoe caught a patch of black ice. His legs went out from under him. He fell hard. His head cracked against the frozen ground. He was still trying to get up when the first police car pulled into the alley. Red and blue lights washed across the snow. 2 officers stepped out with their hands on their holsters. Marcus stayed beside the twins. He unzipped his heavy leather jacket and pulled it off his shoulders. He knelt down and wrapped it around both girls at once. The jacket was huge on them. It swallowed them completely. But inside it, they found warmth for the first time in hours. Rose pressed herself against the leather. Lily closed her eyes. They did not know this man. They did not know his name or his story or where he came from. But they knew one thing. He had saved them. Paramedics arrived moments later. They knelt beside the children and began checking their vitals. They wrapped heating blankets around their small bodies. They spoke in soft, calm voices. One of the officers walked over to Marcus. He was older than the others, gray at his temples, lines around his eyes. He studied the biker for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly. "You're Iron Cole, aren't you? From Desert Thunder?" Marcus nodded once. The officer paused. He glanced back at Derek, who was now in handcuffs near the patrol car. Then he looked at Marcus again. "We've been looking for this guy for 8 months. He's connected to 4 other missing children across 3 counties. He lowered his voice. You just stopped something much bigger than you know. Sarah ran through the empty streets. Her lungs burned. Her legs ached. Her voice had gone hoarse hours ago from screaming her daughter's names. The snow kept falling. The cold kept cutting through her thin coat. She had no phone, no car, no idea where to look next. She had checked the bus station, the library, the park near the highway. She had asked strangers on every corner. No one had seen 2 little girls in pink jackets. No one could help. The city felt endless and empty and cruel. Her body wanted to stop. Her mind refused. She kept moving. 1 block, then another, then another. She could not give up. She would not give up. Not while her daughters were somewhere out there in the dark. Then she saw the lights, red and blue, flashing against the snow behind a strip mall at the edge of town. Police cars, an ambulance, yellow tape stretched across the entrance to the alley. Sarah's heart stopped. Her feet carried her forward before her mind could catch up. She ran toward the lights. She ran until a barrier blocked her path. An officer stepped in front of her. He held up his hands. Ma'am, you can't go through here. She grabbed his arm. Her voice came out raw and broken. My daughters. I'm looking for my daughters. Twin girls, 7 years old, pink jackets. Please. The officer's face changed. Something shifted behind his eyes. He reached for the radio on his shoulder. He spoke into it quickly. Words Sarah could not hear over the pounding in her own chest. Seconds passed. They felt like hours. Then another officer appeared. A woman with kind eyes and snow on her shoulders. She took Sarah's arm gently. Come with me. They walked through the barrier, past the police cars, past the groups of officers talking in low voices, past a man in handcuffs sitting in the back of a patrol car. Sarah did not look at him. She could not look at anything except the ambulance ahead. And then she saw them. 2 small figures sat on the back step of the ambulance. They were wrapped together in a huge leather jacket. Their faces were pale. Their hair was tangled. Their eyes were red from crying. Lily and Rose, alive, shaking, but alive. Sarah's legs gave out. She dropped to her knees in the snow. The cold soaked through her jeans. She did not feel it. She could not breathe. She could not speak. She crawled the last few feet toward her daughters. The girls looked up. Their eyes went wide. Their mouths opened. Mommy! They reached for her with trembling arms. The paramedics stepped back. The officers stepped back. Everyone stepped back. Sarah pulled her daughters into her chest. She wrapped her arms around them so tight they almost disappeared. She pressed her face into their hair. She breathed them in. They were real. They were here. They were safe. For 5 full minutes, no one moved. No one spoke. The snow fell on all 3 of them. Sarah cried without sound. The girls cried with her. Their small hands gripped her coat. Their small voices whispered things only she could hear. The world around them faded away. There was no alley, no police, no ambulance. There was only a mother and her children, holding each other in the snow. Marcus watched from a distance. He stood beside his motorcycle, near the mouth of the alley. His jacket was gone. The cold bit through his flannel shirt. He did not move toward the family. He did not say a word. This moment was not his. He had done what he needed to do. The rest belonged to them. But Rose saw him. She pulled away from her mother for just a second. Her small legs wobbled as she stood. She walked across the snow toward the biker. Her bare feet left tiny prints in the white powder. She stopped in front of him. She looked up at his weathered face, his gray beard, his leather vest with all its patches. She did not see a scary stranger. She saw the man who had wrapped them in warmth when they were dying. She saw the man who had not left their side. She reached up and took his hand. "Thank you," she whispered. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest, something old, something frozen, something that had been locked away for 12 years. He knelt down until he was level with her. He did not speak. He just nodded once. Rose squeezed his fingers, then turned and walked back to her mother. A detective approached Sarah a few minutes later. He was tall and tired-looking. He held a tablet in his hands. His voice was low when he spoke. "Ma'am, I need to tell you something." He paused. The man who took your daughters was not a random predator. He had been watching your family for days, taking notes, learning your routine. Sarah looked up at him. Her arms tightened around her girls. The detective glanced back at the van parked at the far end of the alley. We found files in his vehicle, 7 other families at the shelter, all of them with young children. The investigation moved fast. Within 48 hours, Derek Vance became a name on every news channel in the state. But Derek Vance was not his real name. It never had been. Detectives traced his identity through 7 different aliases over 5 years. He had called himself Daniel Warren in Utah, Michael Crane in New Mexico, Peter Blake in Nebraska. Each name came with a different backstory: a social worker, a church volunteer, a charity coordinator for families in need. He changed his face with glasses and haircuts. He changed his voice with practiced patience, but his method stayed the same. He found vulnerable people, homeless families, single mothers in emergency shelters, parents one paycheck away from collapse, people the system had already forgotten, people who would not be missed right away. The van held everything investigators needed: photographs of children at playgrounds and bus stops, files with names and addresses and routines, burner phones with encrypted messages, receipts from motel rooms across 3 states, a laptop with financial records that showed payments moving through offshore accounts. Derek was not working alone. He was a collector, a middleman, part of a network that moved children across state lines and sold them to the highest bidder. Some of those children had never been found. Their cases sat in cold storage in police departments across the country. Their parents still waited by phones that never rang. Lily and Rose were supposed to be transferred that night. A buyer waited 300 miles away. The exchange was scheduled for 2 in the morning. If Marcus had arrived 10 minutes later, the twins would have vanished into a system designed to make them disappear forever. The news hit Ridgemont like a shockwave. It was a small town. Everyone knew everyone. Neighbors talked over fences. Parents pulled their children closer at bus stops. The question echoed through every conversation: how did this happen here? How did no one see it? Sarah agreed to speak with the local news. She sat in a borrowed chair in a borrowed room and told her story without flinching. She did not hide that she had been homeless. She did not hide that she had trusted the wrong person. She wanted other parents to understand something important. Predators do not look like monsters. They do not wear signs around their necks. They look like helpers. They look like kind strangers with clipboards and warm smiles. They offer hope to people who have none left. And that is how they get in. Her interview aired that evening. By morning, it had been shared thousands of times. Parents across the state watched it. Shelter workers watched it. Other families who had met Derek at different shelters called the police to report their own encounters. The network began to unravel one thread at a time. The Desert Thunder MC appeared in every report. A local motorcycle club member intervened and saved the children. Some headlines carried doubt. Biker gang hero? Others carried respect. Community protector stops predator before tragedy. The coverage split along familiar lines. People saw what they wanted to see, but the calls told a different story. Parents phoned the club's community hotline to say thank you. Fathers left voicemails with shaking voices. Mothers sent cards with handwritten notes. Other motorcycle clubs from neighboring states reached out to ask questions. How did your member know? What signs did he see? Can you teach us what to look for? Marcus refused every interview request. 3 television stations called. 2 newspapers sent reporters to the clubhouse. A podcast producer offered money for an exclusive conversation. He said no to all of them. He did not want fame. He did not want recognition. He had not saved those girls to become a story on the evening news. He had saved them because they needed saving. That was all. That was enough. The only thing he asked for was an update. He wanted to know that Lily and Rose were safe. He wanted to know they were healing. A detective told him they were staying with a foster family until Sarah could secure permanent housing. They were warm. They were fed. They were together. Marcus nodded and walked away. Derek's arraignment came 3 days later. He stood in an orange jumpsuit before a judge. His face showed nothing. No fear, no remorse. When asked if he would cooperate with the investigation, he shook his head. He refused to name anyone else in the network. He refused to explain the files in his van. He stared straight ahead, like a man who knew something no one else did. After the hearing, a federal agent approached the lead detective outside the courthouse. She carried a tablet and a folder thick with printed documents. Her voice was low when she spoke. He made a call from one of his burner phones, 30 minutes before the biker found those kids. The detective frowned. To who? The agent turned the tablet around. A map glowed on the screen. A red dot pulsed near the center of Ridgemont. The call was traced to someone local. Someone who's still here. She paused. Someone who's still looking. The apartment was small, one bedroom, a kitchen with a window that looked out onto a quiet street. A living room with a second-hand couch and a coffee table someone had donated. It was not much, but it had heat. It had a lock on the door. It had walls that belonged to them. Sarah stood at the window and watched Lily and Rose play on the floor. They had a set of colored pencils and a stack of blank paper. They drew quietly, heads bent together, shoulders touching. They did not like to be apart. They had not liked to be apart since the night in the alley. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus found them behind that dumpster. 3 weeks since Sarah had collapsed in the snow and held her daughter so tight she thought she might never let go. The relief had not faded. Every morning she woke up and checked their beds. Every night she locked the door twice. The nonprofit had moved fast. After hearing their story, they had pushed the Harper family to the front of the emergency housing list. Volunteers had helped them move what little they had. Strangers had dropped off furniture and groceries and winter coats that actually fit. The girls attended therapy twice a week. A kind woman with glasses and a soft voice met with them in a room full of toys and books. She let them draw. She let them play. She let them talk when they were ready and stay quiet when they were not. The nightmares came most nights. Lily woke up screaming for her mother. Rose refused to sleep unless the lights stayed on. They both flinched when strangers came too close. They both held Sarah's hand with a grip that said, "Please do not leave." The healing was slow, but it was happening. Sarah had quit her second job. She could not afford to lose the income, but she could not afford to leave her daughters alone either. Not now, not after what happened. The decision had kept her awake for 3 nights straight. Then the fundraiser happened. The Desert Thunder MC had organized it with help from local businesses. They set up a page online and shared it through their networks. Word spread fast. Strangers donated $5, $10, $50. Neighbors brought food and gift cards. A church group collected winter clothes. By the end of the second week, the fund had raised enough to cover 6 months of rent and bills. Sarah did not know how to thank them. She did not know how to thank anyone. For the first time in years, she did not feel alone. Marcus pulled up outside the apartment on a cold Tuesday afternoon. He parked his motorcycle at the curb and sat there for a long time. The engine clicked as it cooled. His breath came out in white clouds. He did not know if he should be here. He was not family. He was not a social worker. He was just a man who had been in the right place at the right time. Maybe that was enough. Maybe it was not. 10 minutes passed. He was about to leave when a small face appeared in the window. Rose. She pressed her hand against the glass. She smiled. She waved. Marcus waved back. He walked up the steps and knocked on the door. Sarah answered. She looked different than she had in the alley. Rested. Steadier. She stepped aside and invited him in. The visit was awkward at first. Marcus sat on the couch with his hands on his knees. He did not know what to say. He had never been good with words. The living room felt too small. The silence felt too loud. Then Lily walked over. She carried a piece of paper in both hands like it was something precious. She stopped in front of Marcus and held it out to him. It was a drawing. A large man on a motorcycle. He had a beard and a leather vest and 2 wide wings stretching out from his back. Above his head, she had written a single word in shaky letters. Angel. That's you, Lily said softly. You're an angel with a loud bike. Marcus looked at the drawing. He looked at the little girl who had made it. Something cracked open in his chest. A sound came out of him that he did not recognize at first. Laughter, quiet and rough and real. Before he left, Sarah stopped him at the door. She did not have a speech prepared. She did not have fancy words. She placed her hand on his arm and looked him in the eyes. You gave me my daughters back. I will never forget. Marcus nodded. He did not trust his voice. He walked down the steps and climbed onto his motorcycle. Halfway home, his phone rang. The club president's voice came through the speaker, calm but serious. "The federal agent wants to meet. Derek started talking today." He paused. "He said something during the interrogation, something about you." Marcus gripped the handlebars tighter. "They think this was not the first time you crossed paths with that network." Motorcycles filled the parking lot outside the Desert Thunder clubhouse. Harleys and Indians and custom builds lined up in rows that stretched to the edge of the property. Riders stood in clusters, leather vests marked with patches from chapters across 3 states. Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico. They had come in overnight. Some had ridden through snow. Some had driven through the dark. But they had all come. The meeting room inside was built for 40. Tonight it held nearly 100. Men stood along the walls. They sat on folding chairs, brought in from the garage. They leaned against door frames and window ledges. The air was thick with coffee and tension and something else, purpose. Ray stood at the front of the room. He was 82 years old now. His back was bent, his voice had gone thin with age, but when he spoke, every man in that room listened. "You know why we're here," he said. "You saw the news. You heard what happened in Ridgemont. 2 little girls almost disappeared forever. One of our own stopped it." He paused. "But one man is not enough. One chapter is not enough. We need more." He looked across the room until his eyes found Marcus. "Iron, come up here. Tell them what you told me." Marcus did not want to stand up. He had never been comfortable in front of crowds. He preferred the road, the wind, the silence of a long ride through empty country. But he rose from his seat and walked to the front of the room. He stood there for a moment without speaking. He looked at the faces watching him, fathers, grandfathers, uncles, brothers, men who had seen hard things and done hard things, men who knew what it meant to protect something. He started with Emily. He told them about his daughter, 8 years old, dark eyes, her mother's laugh. He told them about the accident, the red light, the drunk driver, the hospital. He told them about the years that followed, the drinking, the drifting, the nights when he thought about ending it all. He told them about the night in the alley, the snow, the pink jackets, the man with the clipboard, and the predator's mark on his wrist. He told them about the moment Lily grabbed his boot and whispered those words, "Please do not let him take us again." When he finished, the room was silent. "One man with open eyes can stop a tragedy," Marcus said. "I know that now, but one man is not enough." He looked around the room. A network of riders, watching every shelter, every truck stop, every community in crisis. That could stop hundreds. That could save lives we will never know about. That could be the difference between a child going home and a child disappearing forever. The discussion went on for hours. They talked about training. They talked about legal boundaries. They talked about partnerships with police in towns where trust existed. They agreed to set up anonymous tip lines. They agreed to ride visible patrols near vulnerable locations. They agreed to become eyes, witnesses, protectors, not vigilantes, not replacements for law enforcement. Just another layer of defense for the people the system often forgot. Near the end of the meeting, the side door opened. A woman walked in. She wore a dark jacket and carried a folder under her arm. Her badge hung on a lanyard around her neck. Agent Reyes, the federal investigator working the trafficking case. The room went quiet. Leather and badges did not usually mix well. History ran deep on both sides. But Reyes did not hesitate. She walked to the front of the room and stood beside Marcus. "I know what you're thinking," she said. "I thought it too, at first." She looked around the room. "But I watched the footage from that alley. I read the reports, I talked to the twins, and I saw something I did not expect." She paused. "I saw fathers, grandfathers, uncles, brothers. I saw men who look rough and ride loud, but talk about children's safety with the same fire I see in victim advocates. I saw people who give a damn." She opened her folder and held up a stack of papers. "Training materials, legal boundaries, communication channels. I am offering a partnership. You work within the law. You report what you see. You do not cross lines. In exchange, We give you the tools to do this right." Ray stepped forward. He extended his hand. Reyes shook it. An alliance formed in that moment. Unlikely, unexpected, leather and badges standing together for a simple truth. Every child deserves protection. The meeting ended near midnight. Riders began heading to their bikes. Marcus walked toward the back door. A club member stopped him. He held a small package wrapped in brown paper. "This came for you." No return address. Marcus took the package. He unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a photograph. A little girl standing outside a dance studio. Pink leotard, hair in a ponytail, a smile that lit up the frame. Emily, his daughter, 12 years ago. He turned the photograph over. Handwritten words covered the back in neat black ink. "Some of us remember. Some of us are still watching." Marcus's hands began to shake. The gymnasium at Ridgemont Elementary was full. Children sat cross-legged on the polished floor in neat rows by grade level. Teachers stood along the walls with their arms folded. Parents filled the bleachers behind them. The room buzzed with whispers and shuffling feet. A banner hung above the stage, blue letters on white paper. "Stay safe. Speak up." The principal stepped to the microphone and asked for quiet. The room settled. She introduced the first speaker. Sarah Harper walked to the center of the stage. She wore a simple dress and her hair was pulled back. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the microphone. She looked out at the sea of small faces and took a breath. "I want to tell you something important," she said. Her voice was steady but soft. "Sometimes, bad people pretend to be good people. They smile, they act nice, they say they want to help, but they are lying." The children watched her. Some leaned forward. Some looked confused. She continued. "If an adult ever asks you to keep a secret from your mom or dad, that is a warning sign. Good adults do not ask children to keep secrets from their parents." She paused. "If someone makes you feel scared or uncomfortable, you have the right to say no. You have the right to run. You have the right to scream as loud as you can. No one is allowed to take you anywhere without your family knowing." She stepped back from the microphone. Agent Reyes walked up next. She wore her badge on her belt and carried a small poster board. "I work for the government," she said. "My job is to find people who hurt children and stop them." She held up the poster. It showed a simple hand signal. A fist with the thumb tucked inside, then the fingers closing over it. "This is a safe signal. If you are ever in danger and cannot speak, you can show this to anyone nearby. A store clerk, a teacher, a stranger on the street." She demonstrated the motion slowly. "It means help me. People are being trained to recognize it. If you show this signal, someone will understand." She taught them a code word next. Something simple that a child could say to any adult if they felt unsafe. She explained how to act normal while asking for help, how to stay calm, how to wait for the right moment. The children practiced the hand signal together. Hundreds of small fists opened and closed across the gymnasium floor. Teachers walked between the rows and helped those who struggled. Then Marcus walked onto the stage. The room went quiet. He was the largest person many of these children had ever seen up close. His leather vest was covered in patches. His beard was thick and gray. His boots thudded against the wooden stage. A few of the younger children pressed closer to their teachers. Marcus stopped at the edge of the stage. He did not stand behind the microphone. Instead, he knelt down until he was level with the front row. His voice came out low and gentle. "I know I look a little scary," he said. A few children giggled nervously. "That's okay. Lots of people think bikers are scary. But I want you to know something." He looked across the rows of faces. "Help can come from anywhere. The person who saves you might not look like a superhero. They might not wear a cape or a uniform. They might look like me." He pointed to his vest. "Or like your neighbor. Or like the lady at the grocery store. You should never be afraid to ask for help, no matter who is standing nearby." He stood slowly and stepped back. The principal returned to the microphone. She smiled and looked toward the side of the stage. "We have 2 more guests who wanted to say something." Lily and Rose walked out from behind the curtain. They wore matching blue dresses. Their hair was brushed and shiny. They walked across the stage and stood beside Marcus. Rose reached up and took his hand. The principal handed her a small microphone. Rose held it close to her mouth. Her voice was clear and strong. "He saved us," she said. "He's our friend now." The room erupted in applause. Teachers clapped. Parents wiped their eyes. Children cheered without fully understanding why. Lily leaned against Marcus's leg. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. After the assembly ended, parents approached Marcus in the hallway. They shook his hand. They thanked him. One mother stood apart from the rest, waiting her turn. When she reached him, tears streamed down her face. "My daughter was approached by a stranger last year," she said. "A man in a parking lot. He tried to get her into his car." She wiped her cheeks. But she knew to run. She knew because of a program like this one at her old school. She grabbed Marcus's hand with both of hers. "This saves lives. Please keep doing this." Marcus nodded. "I will." He walked out the front doors of the school. Children played on the swings in the jungle gym. Their laughter floated across the yard. He watched them for a moment. Small bodies, bright voices, futures still unwritten. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A message from Agent Reyes. "Derek is cooperating fully now. We've identified 2 more members of the network. Arrests happening tonight. Your testimony may be needed." Marcus looked back at the schoolyard, at the children, at the future he was helping protect. He typed his reply. "I'll be there." 200 motorcycles lined up along Main Street. Engines rumbled in a low chorus that vibrated through the pavement. Riders adjusted their gloves and checked their mirrors. Families gathered on the sidewalks with cameras and small American flags. Children sat on their parents' shoulders to see over the crowd. The annual Desert Thunder charity ride had grown beyond anything the club had imagined. 1 year ago, 40 riders had participated. This year, chapters from 6 states had joined. News vans parked at the corner. A helicopter circled overhead, filming for the evening broadcast. Marcus sat at the front of the formation. His motorcycle gleamed in the morning sun. His leather vest carried patches that told the story of 30 years on the road. He looked down the line behind him. Fathers, grandfathers, uncles, brothers. Men who had answered a call that most people never heard. Beside him, a small motorcycle puttered quietly. It had training wheels and a custom paint job in bright red. The rider was a 7-year-old boy named Jaden from the county foster system. His helmet was too big for his head. His grin was too big for his face. His foster father rode on the other side, one hand ready to steady the handlebars if needed. Marcus looked at the boy. The boy looked back and gave him a thumbs up. The signal came. Marcus twisted his throttle. The formation rolled forward. The route wound through downtown Ridgemont, past the courthouse, past the library, past the park where children played on swings and slides. People waved from doorways and windows. Store owners stepped outside to watch. An old woman held a sign that read, "Thank you," in shaky handwriting. Jaden pedaled his small motorcycle with everything he had. His foster father stayed close. The crowd cheered as they passed. The boy's grin never faded. The ride ended at the community center, on the east side of town. Bikers parked in neat rows across the lot. Tables had been set up with food and drinks and games for children. Information booths lined the walkway. Volunteers handed out balloons and face paintings. Sarah Harper stood behind one of the booths. She had become a volunteer advocate for homeless families over the past year. She helped people find shelters. She connected them with resources. She told them the truth about staying safe. Lily and Rose stood beside her, handing out pamphlets with pictures and simple words. Agent Reyes walked to a small stage at the center of the gathering. She wore her badge on her belt, her voice carried across the crowd without a microphone. 1 year ago, a man named Derek Vance was arrested in an alley behind a strip mall. She paused. Today, the network he belonged to no longer exists. The crowd went quiet. 18 arrests across 5 states. 12 children recovered and returned to their families. Her voice caught slightly. This happened because people refused to look away. Because a biker stopped on a cold night and chose to act. The crowd erupted. Cheers, applause, some people cried. Strangers hugged strangers. Marcus stood at the edge of the gathering. He did not move toward the stage. He did not wave or speak. He simply watched. Children ran between the tables, laughing. Parents held hands and smiled. Volunteers served food and answered questions. A community had formed around a single moment of choosing to act. A small hand tugged at his vest. He looked down. Lily stood beside him. Her eyes were serious. Her voice was soft. "Mr. Marcus, are you going to keep riding and helping people?" Marcus knelt down until he was level with her. He looked into her eyes, the same eyes that had been glassy and unfocused 1 year ago in a frozen alley, the same eyes that now held light and hope and trust. "As long as I can, little one," he said. "As long as I can." Lily nodded once, satisfied. Then she wrapped her arms around his neck in a quick, tight hug. Before he could respond, she let go and ran back to her sister. Marcus watched her go. He watched the twins hand out pamphlets together. He watched Sarah smile at the families who approached her booth. He watched the children play without fear. Heroes do not always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather and ride loud machines. Children are not protected by systems alone. They are protected by individuals who refuse to look away. Every person holds the power to be the reason someone is saved. The gathering began to wind down as the sun sank toward the mountains. Families packed up their things. Bikers said their goodbyes. The community center lot slowly emptied. Marcus walked to his motorcycle. He swung his leg over the seat. He pulled on his helmet and started the engine. The rumble filled his chest like a heartbeat. He pulled out of the lot and turned toward the highway. The mountains rose around him. The road stretched ahead. Behind him lay a town that would never forget what he had done. In front of him lay more roads, more rides, more chances to make a difference. The engine's roar faded into the distance. The sun touched the peaks. The sky burned orange and gold. Somewhere, right now, a child is waiting for their hero to notice them. Will you be watching?